You guys, I wish I could tell you that your brand guidelines would solve your brand problems. But unfortunately, that's not true. I have worked with organizations time and time again as a brand designer and a web designer back when that was the services that I was providing, that thought, you know what? This new brand identity is going to solve all of my problems. And I hate to tell people, wait a minute, you need to have a plan for how this gets executed. You need to have a plan for this rollout. You need to have a plan for where these assets go and how you manage the experience around them. You need to have a plan that is more than just your visual identity. But that visual identity makes us feel really good. Those brand guidelines make us feel really good. But what happens when the practice doesn't follow through, when there is no follow through? My name is Abriana. I am a brand consultant, principal consultant at Black Unicorn Creative, and our work is really aligning who you are with how you operate and how people experience you. I can't tell you how many times I've had this conversation, and it is this conversation that caused me to completely pivot my business into helping founders and business leaders understand how brand influences their operations and their experiences, and how it absolutely needs to be factored in when considering those two things. Brand guidelines are useful. Do not try to quote me saying the opposite or otherwise. They are absolutely useful. They help you use the same visual consistency or messaging consistency or tone and language, especially if you have branded language or a certain vibe that your audience, your consumers are aware of or that resonates with them. Brand guidelines help with consistency, but a lot of times businesses are dealing with a deeper issue that is not just how do we show up. That's not necessarily the challenge that they're dealing with. They have created a solution to solve a problem that is not complete. And so if the deeper issue is confusion inside the business, in the delivery of the product or services, then your brand guidelines are not going to solve that. They are a starting point. They are a starting point for intention. They are a direction setting tool. But like with most tools, you need to know how to use it. So let's talk about it. Brand guidelines manage the expression of the brand, not the behaviors of a brand. So going through that process with your brand designer, with whatever agency that you have hired, you are trying to intentionally craft how you want to show up. You understand your foundations, you understand who you are, and now you're saying, this is who we're going to be to the rest of the world. And working with that agency, you're able to say, let's document who we are going to be. This is how we're going to show up. These are the spaces we're going to show up. These are the assets that are going to be showing a consistent story across the different places that we are going to show up. This is how we're going to sound. These are the messages that we want people to associate with us. Oftentimes, there are brands that have brand sounds, brand music. This is when people hear this, we want them to think of us, right? And so that process is so fulfilling because it is the clarity that gives you that dopamine, like, yes, we're getting more clear. We've talked to our consumers. We know what they want from us. We're getting clear on that. We feel closer. We feel that connection and we love it. But now you have to think about how your brand gets delivered, the back end, the unsexy stuff, and how you combine those two to provide that consistent experience and consistent operation for your team and your employees. When I speak with business owners about how their business, how they know there's something's missing, but they're not sure what it is, or they know that something's off, but they're not sure what it is, it's because it's that deeper layer of alignment. And I say deeper layer, but I've created a model that I'm working on that's called the 7 pillars of alignment. 7 pillars of brand alignment. And it's really working through, what are those layers? What is the onion of your business that you need to peel away, right? What do you need to add back? And so part of the reason why founders and business leaders find that they are feeling off about their business is because the real issue is often not their visual identity. It's their leadership. It's their onboarding practices. Excuse me. It is their operations. It's their customer experience. It is their packaging. It looks beautiful. It's not functional. It looks beautiful. It doesn't align with their brand. It looks beautiful, but it's excessive for a consumer who does not like waste, right? It is those things, the deeper layers of the organization, where that brand needs to be infused intentionally. It needs to go deeper than that surface level. And that's part of the reasons why I created the 7 pillars of brand alignment, because I was having to ask myself, what are these decisions? Where is the execution of brand aligned decisions? Where is it at within the business? And why does it feel like it falls outside of the scope of the brand strategy conversation, despite having an undeniable impact on the business? If brand is going to influence your business in saying who you're going to serve, how you're going to serve them, and how they're going to experience you, how can it not be infused into the other layers of the business? How you deliver your products and services, how you engage with stakeholders, how you engage with investors, how you approach sales conversations. How can it not be? Right? So when I talk about the 7 pillars of brand alignment, I need to do a separate video on this, but it's still a working model. Okay, it's a working model. So you're going to get a little taste. You're going to get a little overview. All right. But it starts with that foundation, right? It's the foundation, your purpose, values, and positioning. It's that core DNA of the business. But then you go to brand expression, and that's how you show up in the world. Those are your communications, how you communicate your promise through your identity, your messaging, and your story, right? But that tends to be where brand strategy stops. In most agencies, that is where brand strategy stops. And I am saying that's not enough. And that leaves our business leaders, our founders, our entrepreneurs stranded and struggling because they can't jump that next gap. They cannot cross over that gap because that's not their subject matter expertise. They're just trying to deliver, okay? It is up to us as service providers, as consultants, to help you bridge that gap, because the next level is practice. It is the signals, the habits, the behaviors leaders and teams consistently do that will either strengthen what you've got going on or weaken it. And then we have those operations. What are the systems, processes, and policies that need to be in place to help you maintain alignment with that foundation? And then we have experience, looking at those touch points, looking at the touch points that bring in the ROI that you need to sustain the business. And then we have brand measurement. We're measuring the milestones. We are looking at metrics. We're understanding feedback loops and understanding how to keep our momentum visible within the organization. And lastly, we have innovation. How does the organization evolve? How are you going to change? How are you going to advance? We're having a big conversation now about how AI is changing organizations. And so that's like the final pillar. So quick overview. But those are the levels that we are needing to explore and that I explore with my consulting clients to say, okay, your foundation, great. You're clear about this, but your operations don't align with that. You're clear about this, but your experience doesn't align with that. You're clear about your foundation, but what you are measuring, you do not have practices, or what you desire to measure, or what you're asking for as far as reporting. You don't have practices in place to support that, right? Your brand guidelines are not going to get that deep into the business. They're just simply not. And a lot of agencies are not equipped to provide you with that additional support, that additional integration support. Visual consistency often, or the focus on it, like making that a priority, oftentimes can mask those deeper inconsistencies. You see this with founders who, either often want rebrands, who want new websites, or say we have to overhaul. No. When I hear overhaul, I hear we have resources to spend and we're going to spray and pray to see what we get. That's not strategy. A company can look polished. They can have their logos, they can have their brand colors, their mood boards, all these things. They can have assets that tell a story, and then still have a disconnect when it comes to the practice and the operations of the business. I call this lipstick on a pig syndrome, friends, and it's real, and it takes away from the longevity of a business. Brand building is a long game. It is the practice of building trust long term, so that when you experience economic, market, product turmoil, you have people in your corner who will help sustain you while you pivot. That is brand building. And so the lipstick on the pig will not sustain that. It will not sustain in the brand building conversation. You will find yourself reinvesting in new shades, okay? You'll have a MAC, you'll have a Morphe, you'll have the lip bar. Those are lipstick brands or makeup brands. Anyway, we do not want to put lipstick on a pig, right? Shout out to pigs. I hear they're smart. But we do not want to continue to rely on new visuals or our visual identity to solve the problems that are happening deeper within our businesses. So if you have received your brand guidelines and you are still asking yourself, what next? Tell me in the comments. Describe to me what's happening within your organization right now, and I will share with you the top 3 things that you should be focusing on next, especially as it comes to the 7 pillars of brand alignment. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in to these 30 days of a brand alignment sprint where I'm talking through these things with you. And if you have any questions, let me know in the comments. Share with me what you got going on, and I'll see you in the next video.